Okay, our keynote speaker today. I had the chance to interview our keynote, Dr. Cam McDonald, a few months ago. And I have to admit, I sat open-mouthed with his knowledge, his way of explaining perhaps the most difficult parts of human physiology, as well as the possibilities of what we can do right now for our clients using technology. And today, rather than me introduce Cam, I've asked Kyle Riley from PH360 to tell us about PH360 and then introduce, and this will be a great introduction, won't it, Kyle, because he's your boss, and then have you introduce Dr. Cam to our amazing audience today. Over to you, Kyle.
Thanks, Justin, and thanks for having us on. I think it's such an incredible platform to be on, to have a space to share information about health professional and health technology. So thank you for putting this on. And thank you to John and Barry as well for sharing a bit of insight there as to what our leading organisations are looking to do, particularly with respect to shifting the needle on the fitness industry and making fitness become more under that kind of health and physical sector banner. I think that's really, really important in the future of where things are going, and particularly an area that myself and Cam are focused on as well, is really shifting the innovation in the fitness industry through technology, through personalised health, to really support people in living longer, healthier lives. So what I want to do before we jump in is I'm just going to share a screen just to kind of explain a little bit about what it is we do here at PH360. And essentially, guys, PH stands for personalised health, 360 degrees of life. So we're looking at health from all different angles. And Barry alluded to this before, that as technology advances, we'll start to shift more into the wellness sector in client expectations and people wanting to know more about their overall health picture. And I really do believe that the fitness industry is going to evolve as technology evolves into having to offer more than just fitness alone. And this is essentially where we look at. We look at two major areas. One is personalized health technology, and the second is education for health, medical, and fitness professionals in the application of technology and health technology in their businesses. So personalization is a bit of a buzzword. You know, it's going from personalization to hyper personalization because people can't find a niche way of trying to kind of flog a dead horse in a respect of getting a new definition for personalization, because it's been hammered that much. But personalization is absolutely important. We know that different people will respond differently to the same program. We know that different people have different genes, and we can't continue down this road of prescribing the thing and everybody focusing on the one diet or the one exercise program and hoping that the whole world will get healthy following the one way. We know that people are different. We know we need different approaches, but it's been quite difficult to apply this at scale to mass population when we're talking about exercise, nutrition, and other lifestyle factors. We know there's more to health than exercise and nutrition alone. Now, this is really important because often when someone comes into the gym for weight loss or whatever it might be, they often will go, right, well, you need to exercise, you need to eat healthy, but we know there's more to it than that. You need to sleep, we need to look at stress levels, relationships. There's even things like the seasons and the climate. These things can actually affect our physiology and gene expression. As more research comes out in these areas and technology improves to quantify these different areas, well, again, the wellness picture and the wellness journey will start to evolve, and we'll need to start looking at all these different things when it comes to that overall client picture. Importantly, when it comes to the client, who you are right now is different from who you'll be in the future. So just because something worked for you in the past doesn't mean it's going to work in the future. So we know that the human body is not static, it's dynamic. So we need to be able to track and measure the human being throughout the life, throughout different environments, to provide them with updated information that will support their health, support their fitness journey, or whatever it might be. So these are the major things that we focus on. With advances in technology, we're now at a point where we can analyze and assess people in a very, very specific way, and then provide them with very, very personalized health information to really supplement and support that overall wellness journey. So this is the approach that we take at PH360. The way we do it is quite unique. We don't use gene testing. We don't need blood. We don't need saliva. If we want to do this, we want to be able to do this at scale in a really easy and applicable way. You think about lockdown right now. If we could imagine, we could get personalized health into the hands of every single person while they're cooped up at home. How amazing would that be? And that's essentially what we've been working on over the last 10 years. So we actually use measures on the outside of the body to quantify both gene and gene expression. So this is a combination of looking at anthropometric sites on the body, things like hair color, skin color, eye color. We'll even look at really unique things such as the length of jaw, thickness of neck, and all these different markers, correlate that back to the research. And from a close to 100,000 person data set that we've built over the last 10 years or so now, we're now at a point where we can measure the outside of the body to understand what's going on the inside. So we actually don't need blood tests or saliva. We can do this in a very, very non-invasive way. Now, both Cam and I have had the privilege over the last 6 years of developing the education of this information to health and fitness professionals, and also running a lot of training around the world and applying this with lots and lots of clients. Now, for the first number of years, this was done for a measuring tape. Okay, so to be able to quantify the gene expression, we're actually measuring bodies and then answering advanced medical questionnaires. And in about 30 minutes, and even still looking at this, it's quite groundbreaking to think in 30 minutes we could measure a person up and then on their smartphone give them access to personalized nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, and behavioral information based on their gene and gene expression. Now, that's really cool. But even, we're at a tech summit, it's 2021, and we know that we need to be advancing it more than that. So what we've been working on over the last couple of years and what we're now in the final process of finishing off is our machine learning part of our algorithms, which essentially allows us to eliminate the measuring tape. So we're now at a point where we can essentially take a picture of someone on the smartphone, let the machine learning measure the different anthropometric sites, answer a few medical questionnaires, and then our algorithms will then crunch all of that information together to again provide that personalized exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle report for that client. Now, this is really cool because what that means is we're now at a point where we can measure gene expression on a smartphone. This is how technology is advancing. Smartphones are now becoming very, very advanced medical devices because of things like artificial intelligence and machine learning. So this is Shay. This is the app that we use at PH360 to deliver people personalized and predictive and preventative smart health intelligence. And as mentioned before, it's not a one-stop, it's not kind of a one-off template of here's your nutrition and exercise program. Shay is like your smart health assistant that will learn as you age, as the seasons change, as your health status changes, and upgrade your exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle programs to continue to support what it is you need to be doing. So it's very, very dynamic. It works with the person. Now, in the future, here's where it gets really exciting. Barry mentioned this before about wearable technology. Huge amount of people are now using wearables. And in the future, we'll be able to measure even more through the biometric information coming through. So not only will we have this snapshot of your gene and gene expression from the measurements that we take, but then when you start to look at 24-hour blood glucose monitoring, when you start looking at HRV and stress levels and heart rates and all the different things that we can pull in through wearables, what we'll be able to do with this information is look at you right now, look at what we call your current phenotype right now, follow you through time. So let's say that Shay gives you a nutrition program and an exercise program, and you're following that for 3 weeks. And in the 4th week, we realize that your blood sugar's out a little bit, you've not been sleeping properly, your HRV's dropped, so you're showing signs of stress. What Shay will be able to do is in real time change the recommendations of that nutrition plan, of that exercise plan to match your current phenotypic state or your current environment. Okay, so this is the future as to what technology and what we're actually working at PH360 is able to do. Now, before I hand over to Cam, often when I paint this picture of what is now available with technology, we get 2 types of people. One type of person, which is like, well, where does that leave us? The personal trainers and the instructors are saying, well, if we've got technology and intelligence that can do all of this for us, where does that leave us? And then the opportunists out there that see the gap in the market as to how we can evolve our positioning within the fitness industry based on the changes in technology. And that just brings me into the second part of our focus, which is fitness professional and health professional education. Because as amazing as this technology is, we still need to exceed where artificial intelligence and technology fails, and that's in the human behavior side of things. So you could have the best app in the world with all of the information on there as to what it is you need to do to live in best health. But when it comes to following those habits, adherence, we still need that human behavior and that relationship and support. So this is where we actually work. We have a industry recognized 8-week mastery series where we train health professionals, from personal trainers through to medical practitioners, in how to use this technology with their clients in their business, so that they can use this both online and face-to-face in a health coaching setting. Okay, because ultimately, guys, this is where the evolution of the fitness industry is going. As technology advances, we're going to see more and more people that are coming into the studios, coming into the clinics, coming into the gyms, very well informed about their personal health needs and needing support with that, whether it's somebody to interpret the information that's speaking to them from the smartphone, through to needing motivation to actually get done or complete the exercise program or the nutrition program that's being prescribed to them. And this is where I really see an evolution of the personal trainer becoming more of a wellness coach. This is where I see the gym being that place where it's not just for a workout, but it's an enhancement of that overall wellness journey for the client. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Dr. Cam to talk to you a little bit more about that. If you guys are interested in learning more, there's a little link there, bit.ly/Fritz21 PH360. If you fill out that little contact form on there, let us know that you're from the summit, and we'll get in contact with you to speak to you more. If you're a gym looking to use personalized health technology at scale within your facility, if you're a trainer looking to be educated, we've got different options for different people. But outside of that, guys, thank you so much for having us. Thank you again, Justin, for putting on this incredible event. And I'll pass you over to Cam to talk about the future in exercise as medicine through technology. Thanks, team.
Thanks very much, Kyle. Absolutely wonderful to be here with you all. I'm just going to get my screen ready to share here. Really wonderful to be involved in this summit, and so grateful that we're able to share this information with you, even though there's been so much change to the world and our ability to be there in person. It was definitely an exciting time to be able to get to Sydney and get outside the state. But the fact that we're able to provide this information is incredibly rewarding. So today, I guess, it is all about exercise as medicine. We have this weapon of a tool in our pocket called exercise knowledge, and it works just like a medicine. And it took me a while to come to this. In fact, exercise as medicine was the reason that I really started down my journey and eventually found personalized health. I was sitting in my exercise physiology degree in third year. I'd spent the first 2 years avoiding as much class as possible. And then in third year, I was sitting there with this incredible lecturer, and he started talking about how if you exercise, it actually starts reversing or improving your diabetes. And I said, well, how is everybody not doing this? And that set me on a path to think, okay, well, I've got to go fix diabetes. This is definitely my pathway. And so I then studied my master's in dietetics to learn a lot more about physiology. I went on to work in hospitals looking at cardiac rehabilitation, pulmonary rehabilitation, supporting people in hospital, both dietetically and from an exercise component in cardiac rehab. And I've felt that this wasn't really me, because I wanted to stop people getting to hospital in the first place. And at that point, I started my PhD looking at how we can prevent chronic disease in patients who had been through breast cancer, treatment for breast cancer, because they age 10 years in 1 year after treatment, and their chronic disease risk happens a lot faster. So if you could prevent it in them, then we'd have a really good model for preventing it in other people as well. And so with that, I started moving into private practice. And it was in private practice that I realized that some people were getting results, some people weren't getting results, some people were doing exactly the opposite of what I asked them, and they were still getting results. And then other people were not doing at all what I said, and they weren't getting results either. I had the full myriad of different results that people could get. And I got very, very interested in personalization. And what I now know, after finding, and I was fortunate enough to find the founder and chief medical officer of PH360 some 7 years ago, now lead their clinical application of precision medicine, which is 5 to 10 years ahead of any other technology on the planet right now when it comes to understanding the individual. And I was able to really understand what it means to use exercise as medicine. So with that, I want to get into it. I want you to understand where this incredible interest comes from. And, you know, really when we think about what are we here for as an industry, what are the things that we're trying to create? And I want you to have a think about that for a second. Why are you in this industry? Now, for me, when I was thinking about this as a collective, having worked with thousands of health professionals over the last 7 years, trained them in this stuff, Often it comes down to, we want to give people the knowledge they need, the support they need to act on that knowledge, and the support they need to maintain healthy behaviors. But none of that matters unless they are living in their best health and happiness. We are trying to get them towards a place where they are without disease. That is essentially our mission, either with better quality of life, without disease, and feeling like healthy is the normal. Imagine for a second if health wasn't a topic of information because it was so common. Imagine if we didn't have to report on disease. What would we fill our news with? What would we fill our life with, our money with? It's an interesting question. And this is something that we can do. And so when it comes to exercise as medicine, it has been established. There is actually a thing called exercise is medicine. It's not just in America and Australia and Europe, it's around the world. And there is a very strong link and a huge amount of evidence to indicate that exercise is actually medicine. And when you look at the most popular medications on the planet, just for a second, these are the ones that are associated with cardiovascular disease, 6 out of the top 10. And then the other ones are associated with metabolic syndrome as well, whether it be reflux, diabetes, thyroid, are all associated with metabolic syndrome, obesity, and inflammatory lifestyle. These lifestyle-mediated diseases, even asthma is considered a lifestyle condition as well, because the environment can change its symptomology. All of these conditions, when we have a look at the top one, it's cardiovascular disease. And cardiovascular disease is not a deficiency of statin drugs. It is not saying, oh, I haven't taken enough statin drugs, that's why I got heart disease. No, it is generally a deficiency of activity. At least 20% of heart disease is a deficiency of movement. Think about that for a second. It's just like you have nutrient deficiencies. Physical inactivity creates a deficiency in your body, which allows heart disease to occur. If you exercise, it reduces cardiovascular disease deaths by 26%. Now you think that's only a quarter, but just remember that 2/3 of the planet is dying. No, sorry, 1/3 of the planet is dying from this condition every year. Over 30% of people are dying from cardiovascular disease and is the #1 cause of death. 26% of those people we could reduce just by getting them moving. And it's not just a matter of, oh, we're going to give you a statin, which has then side effects and changes to your brain function and the way that you metabolize various things. But exercise also improves quality of life. It also improves sleep. It also improves mood. It also improves mental health. All of these things that actually matter to you as your experience of life. You don't notice when you take a drug like this. You do notice when you exercise. It is so much more than a medicine. It is a tonic for life and for health. So we need to recognize that, firstly, exercise is recognized as a medicine. And if you go into Exercise as Medicine as a website, you'll see all of these different fact sheets about the diseases that exercise is considered a medicine for. This is not new science. But the thing that disrupts exercise as medicine, because it doesn't seem to work for everybody, this is very, very important, is because right now we lack precision with the allocation of exercise. Now, some of the things that disrupt exercise as a medicine is how precisely we support someone so that they adhere. A lot of the reason that people don't get benefits from exercise is because they don't adhere to the exercise that they're prescribed. Secondly, the coaching that is provided is not precise enough. It is not about the person. It's about a model of motivation, as opposed to the motivation that is going to be the model for that person. And I'll explain what that means in a second. And then straight up, some exercise doesn't give people results. That is a problem. And the justification for this and the evidence for this supports it in that in every single research trial, every single exercise trial, there are non-responders. And these can range to very high percentages. So we have exercise as this great methodology, and it's going to be a medicine, but sometimes it doesn't work on some people. And even if they do all of the exercise they're supposed to, it doesn't give them the benefit. Whereas other people get huge benefits and they realize huge growth and improvements as a result of doing the exercise that's prescribed. There is a huge variation in response. And to help you understand a little bit more about that, we take this drug, this #1 prescribed drug on the planet, And a lot of people will have an improvement in their blood cholesterol levels. Some people, they still go up using this drug, non-responder. I'm going to take this drug and it's going to work. Not for everyone. Okay, the most popular drug on the planet, there's still a good percentage of people that will not get better and in fact will get worse. We also know that if you eat carbohydrates, one person doesn't even have a blip on their blood sugar radar, whereas another person has a huge blip on their blood sugar radar. This is exactly the same food and exactly the same conditions. And this person looks like a person with diabetes. This person doesn't. They have a variable response to the same carbohydrates. We need to give this person different foods than we do this person. It then comes to exercise. This is the most fascinating stuff ever. When you take people through strength training, some people do not get more muscle mass. Look at this. They actually drop their muscle mass, whereas some people, they get a lot more muscle mass. When you take someone through exercise, some people improve their insulin sensitivity. Other people, it gets worse during exercise. Make a note of that. Exercise does not cure. Do you imagine the shock when I'm trying to change diabetes for the planet and I'm realizing that I can make some people exercise and it makes them worse? Have you ever considered that that's a thing? Have you ever considered that just putting people through aerobic exercise won't get them a result? Check out this systematic review of all of the HIIT training sessions that have been done. They've HIIT training controlled trials. 31% of people will get a result, a likely response from HIIT training, high volume HIIT training. 35% of people will be a likely non-responder and 33% of people will be uncertain. You imagine now, I want you to think about this. People walk into your gym, into an RPM class or into a HIIT session with you as their personal trainer, and there's a 68% chance that they are not going to get a result. Would you prescribe that? Is it a medicine? No, it's an ineffective medicine if it's not right for them. It is appropriate for some people, definitely, but we need to understand this. Even cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, the most popular motivational psychotherapeutic tool, you get a 35 to 45% non-response rate. That is, I am not motivated. That's very important that we're using this gold standard tool that only works in 55 to 65% of people. It's almost a coin flip as to whether this is going to motivate them or not. Think about that for a second. These are big problems. The thing that you need to understand is exercise is a stress. It is not healthy until you recover. If you go for an ultra marathon and don't stop, you die. It's because exercise is a stress. If you keep lifting weights, your muscle tears because it's a stress. It's only when you recover does it become a medicine. And so the stress needs to be precise. It needs to be appropriate. Too much stress, you barely get back up to square one. Too little stress and you don't get growth. The Goldilocks stress and you start getting a really lovely medicine here. But the fascinating part of this is that the medicine, the dosage that you need to provide to somebody, the type of medicine that you need to provide them from an exercise point of view is different for everyone. And this is a really good example. This is 500 people of families. They took family groups and they put them through 6 months of cardiovascular exercise training on a bike. They supervised them at 75% of their heart rate max for 6 months. Some people did not get fitter. You imagine having a client for 6 months, 3 times per week on the cycle, and they don't get fitter. And they were doing the exercise, not adhering, but they were doing it. And then you have a bunch of people here who don't really improve their fitness at all. How do you justify that? How do you say that what you're doing is great for them? Whereas other people blow through the roof, absolutely love it. Their fitness goes skyrocketing. This was a study done in 1995, and we go nowhere near explaining this in the way that we support people. This right here, this 3 per week is not a medicine for this person. For this person, it is a medicine. Exercise, it matters what you do, and we need to be precise in order for it to be a medicine. We also know from a precision point of view that people need to exercise at certain times. We know that early bird dominated teams perform better in the morning. Their peak performance is at 10 a.m. Night owl teams that are dominated by night owl players perform better across the season if they're nighttime games. Interestingly enough, night owls don't tolerate stress in the morning as well as early birds. You make them have an early game, now they're actually struggling. Exercise is not a medicine here. Exercise is actually an increased stress. And to make that point even more clear, this is a group of people with diabetes. If you make them do HIIT training in the morning, their blood sugar levels go up. They get worse through the day because exercise in that way, at that time, for that intensity, in this type of body, actually makes blood sugar levels worse because it increases the stress that it places on that system because they have a more night owl chronotype, which means they don't tolerate stress as well in the morning. It actually makes their results worse. This is why people go to a boot camp and don't get a result after 12 weeks because they're stressing their body in the morning doing the wrong time of exercise. It is not a medicine. It is now a side effect. Blood sugar levels is a side effect of the exercise intervention that you have. Whereas if you take that same exercise and make them do it in the afternoon, look at this blue line. It's now much, much lower. I want to help you for reference understand that this gray line is doing nothing. Doing nothing is actually better than doing exercise the wrong way. This is why we have a problem with the exercise that we're prescribing to people, because we do not understand the precision that we need to allow for. And so the big question, how do we make exercise a precise medicine for everyone? The first, we have to understand genetics. We have to get into how is this person made up? What are the genes that they have? How does this influence their response to exercise? How does this change their nutrigenomics? We know that 50% of a person's personality is driven by their genetics, not who their parents are. They can be separated at birth and twins will be 50% the same, irrespective of what they learn. And just to help you understand, parental influence is somewhere between 5 to 10%, and that's considered a huge effect size. 50% is driven by your genetics. Our behaviors are in our biology, our chronotype, how we're going to respond to the world around us at what time, even how we're going to respond to medications. These things are found in our genes. We also know that if you give a long femored person a back squat, it's going to put a lot more stress on their lower back than it is someone with shorter femurs. This biomechanical individuality actually means that this exercise is much more likely to not be a medicine and to result in side effects. Whereas if you take an individual with type 1 muscle fibers and you make them train lots of heavy, powerful weights, they don't improve their type 2B that much, and actually they're more likely to injure. Conversely, if you take someone who's very dominant in their type 2B muscle fibers and you make them do lots of lactic acid tolerance work, they hate it and they quit because their body doesn't do that as well. So their adherence is changed because they don't have the right exercise. They don't get results because they're not using their natural strengths. You take someone with a bigger cross-sectional area in their muscle, you're going to be able to put a heavier weight on this person and they get a greater result from that weight. If you take someone with a small cross-section, those skinny little muscles that people have sometimes, and you put heavy weights on them, it actually creates more stress because exercise is a stress. And if you don't get precise about that, it leads to injury. My friends, this is very important. And it's not as simple as just understanding genetics and biomechanics and muscle fiber type, because that gene that codes for certain things in your cardiovascular function changes the way that you might have a risk for blindness, might change the way your liver operates, which changes some considerations around your food and other things related to your chronotype. This is called pleiotropic. This is genes that have a different function in different tissues. We also know that it's not one gene that determines what exercise a person needs. It's not one gene that determines a person's behaviors. Sometimes it's hundreds of genes interacting together. This is called polygenicity. Schizophrenia, for example, is associated with hundreds of genes. 5,000 genes change their expression when you do a HIIT session. Now, you need to understand all of those gene interactions to understand, is this right for this person? It gets very complex. And this is where we end up with a situation like this. There are any number of types of exercises that we can do. All of these different types of exercises can be done in different ways. And then what's the injury risk for this individual? What are the health conditions that we need to consider? What's their muscle fiber type? That is also translated to the complexity of the food that's got to support that, to the mentality and the behavior that somebody has as well, because people are motivated differently. Some by challenge, some are self-driven, some are all about the support that's given to them. We then have the environment that's influencing things, climate, the temperature. Winter makes you want to exercise less. Spring makes you want to exercise more. Your financial stability can change your gym access, can change your mentality, can change your motivation. And all of this, you nail it, you get it right by some fluke, and then they change. They change in winter, they change at life stage, they change with menopause. All of these things, it's a very complex system. And so in order for us to be very precise about exercise and to make it a medicine, we have to understand all of the literature. There are literally 2.5 million papers published every year on health, and more than 10,000 in this discipline alone of fitness. And your job is to support people not to be reading, 200 papers per week? Is that about right? Yeah, it's about right. So 200 papers per week, then assimilate that so that you've got exactly the right paper for exactly the right person at exactly the right time. And then you have all of the behavioral literature there too, that's going to inform how you can motivate this person in a way that's appropriate for them. It's too much. We have to engage with technology. Technology is the answer to this precision. And technology is scary for some people. I understand that. But I want you to just take a tour through technology with me. Magnifying lens, really useful back in the day of just checking something out a little bit closer. You think, yeah, I'll take that magnifying glass. That is a technological advance, my friends. This is a very useful thing. We then progress to the microscope, then the spectral assay that allows us to, in like 20 minutes, pick up hormone markers in blood without having to use a microscope and count them up. We can do it automatically with hundreds of samples at once. We can then do a scan to actually understand every tissue in the body and how it's functioning and where blood is flowing through a functional MRI. This is what technology has done for us. We then can log all of our food in an app that tells us exactly what nutrients we've had. And if we're aiming for certain nutrients to regulate those, exactly where our exercise volume has been through a fitness application, exactly where our biomechanical structures are lying when we stand by taking a photo that gives us exactness. Then doctors even use a calculator to say, right, you've got this cholesterol with this age, with this, these other risk factors. We're going to plug that in. It's going to tell us how severe is your cardiovascular risk. I'm going to change my prescription based off this calculation because I cannot hold all of this data. I'm going to rely on someone to do deep learning and to inform this algorithm so that I can clinically practice better, so that I have more time with you as the client to make sure this happens. This is where technology is aiding all of our decisions. It is not a scary thing. It is an absolutely necessary thing. And now we are moving into the stage of advanced AI, or the start of AI. I shouldn't say it's advanced generally, but artificial intelligence. And we need to teach technology how to learn. We can't just let it learn by itself. We've actually got to teach it how to learn. And fortunately, over the last 20 years, there's been an incredible effort looking at the human genome, how our body interacts with the environment around it. And we now know how to teach that technology how to understand the body. We must understand the system that is. And so we have the genotype, the genetics that we've spoken about. But as you know, you train someone for 3 months and their body changes. And now their genes are expressing differently. They can tolerate more exercise. They can tolerate more carbohydrates. They can tolerate more stress because their gene expression has changed. Their phenotype has changed, the end result of these two. We now know how to quantify genes and also the impact of environment from the developmental stages. And so I want to help you understand, in order to teach technology so that we can make exercise a precise medicine, this is how technology needs to understand our development. We develop from the womb in our embryo. Now, we do not develop the layers of this embryo evenly. We actually develop them unevenly. And some people will develop a more dominant mesoderm layer in their embryo. Now, you can see different tissues are being created in each of these embryological layers. We have the nervous system and the skin. We have the musculoskeletal system and the kidneys, the adrenal glands, the reproductive organs. We have the digestive organs, the lungs, the pancreas, the thyroid, the liver in this layer right here. And this person developed their mesoderm with more energy. And so the mesoderm becomes more dominant, which means the hormones that are produced and are sensitive in the tissues here become more dominant as well. We end up with adrenaline and testosterone being more dominant in this person's body. Now, what happens as a result of that? If someone's got more adrenaline and testosterone rolling around their system from the womb all the way through to adulthood, which is what happens, embryological change influences for the rest of our lives, we have a person who is going to have shorter femurs. The testosterone sensitivity shortens the length of your femur. It also increases the length of your trunk. It also, the adrenaline and testosterone combination makes you more competitive and more direct. We also know that this combination makes you respond faster and need variety, because without variety, you have no unknowns. You don't feel adrenaline. If you don't feel adrenaline, you don't feel normal, because you've been developing with adrenaline and testosterone your whole life. So this person is going to be seeking adrenaline and testosterone-based activities. Now, all of a sudden, we end up with someone who's shorter, muscular, athletic, because the shorter femurs make for shorter height. We also have this energetic person because they're chasing adrenaline and testosterone. They've got a faster metabolism. Because of this testosterone response as well, they're actually tolerant of lactic acid, the way that their body develops, and they inflame more for any given response. So we now understand a lot about this body just by looking at how it is built, how it behaves. And this is the system that is driving health within this body as well. We then have its principles of do first, think later. This person is going to be, I'm just going to have a crack because I want to get there first, even if it's a little bit unknown, because I want to win testosterone and I don't mind taking risk, adrenaline. So I'm going to do first, think later. I'm going to go hard and then I'm going to go rest. And you can imagine now the exercise this person's going to enjoy is CrossFit. Competitive, short, very high intensity, unknown, designed for people with short levers. This is why you see every CrossFit champion shorter than 5'10". 5'10", 5'11", they do not get taller because they have to have this developmental process to be completely aligned with that sport, behaviorally, physiologically. CrossFit for this person is medicine. Now, this person has developed out of their ectoderm, and this ectoderm is developing out of their central nervous system. And as a result, we have a body that has less cortisol in development. They end up with a slighter frame. They have very little muscle mass. They have very little bone and fat. They're like the more delicate of structures. As a result of this central nervous system dominance as well, they become hyperlogical in the way they do things. They're very driven on their data. They like looking at their data. They're introverted because they get overwhelmed by lots of people. They're more fine. They're more light. They're fast mental processes. They're very sensitive. They are hard gainers. They don't have much reserve in the tank, so they're not going to be out there, or particularly not going to be out there lifting really, really heavy weights. They're not designed for this kind of thing. Whereas we have another body that develops out of the endoderm, and obviously everybody is individual, but these are just some of the ways that people can develop, and they develop with more prolactin and insulin. Now, prolactin is a hormone that makes you grow bigger. It also makes you more nurturing. And it also triggers insulin, which is also a growth hormone too. And so this individual is not going to do well with long marathon running. That is not medicine for them, but heavy lifting is going to be medicine for them. They've got stronger joints, bigger muscle cross-sectional area. They've got a greater level of conservation in their body as well. They've got a greater propensity to be insulin resistant. And so when it comes to medicine for this body, it's going to be long enduring exercise and heavy weights, not high intensity running 400 to 800 meters. When in the Olympics did you ever see someone with this physique win? Never. But they are always in the shot put, power sports. They are all about family because the prolactin makes them worry about others, but it also makes them bigger. The biggest people are most protective. And you can see now that their physical structure is also being influenced by the same hormones that are driving their behavior. And so now we have a very physical body that is strong, that is protective. The biggest genes get the most protective, nurturing components. This is a good thing that nature did. Rather than giving the most aggressive genes to the strongest people, everyone dies. So how do we do this? Essentially, when we understand embryology, we can actually measure the outside of people's bodies. Now, there is so much in the literature around a waist to hip ratio indicating the genes that you have, the thickness of your neck indicating the diseases you're most predisposed to, the length of your ring finger and your index finger being associated with testosterone levels and competitiveness and attachment to people. We know that your height is associated with cancer. This is why people in Holland, we're the tallest country on the planet, have the highest incidences of some cancers because of their height alone. taller people have got a greater risk of certain cancers, whereas shorter people have a risk of other diseases. We know that, and these things can now be captured with a photo. We can now photo somebody and understand their genetics and how they've developed. And so how does this all come into precision training with systems biology? How does this actually work? And I'm going to spend now the next 5 to 10 minutes before we wrap up to really help you understand, what does precision training with this systems biology and the wearable technology actually mean? We know that if we assess somebody with technology, and we're doing this in conjunction with a health professional, what the technology and this assessment is going to tell us is this metabolism is prone to osteoporosis and muscle wasting. They're more catabolic. Their nervous system is going to be more dominant, the way that they've developed. They're also going to have lower physical resistance, and they're more tolerant in the afternoon. This is what technology is going to tell us straight away. So we go, okay, that's starting to paint a picture now. This problem is probably going to be able to tolerate more carbohydrates. They're probably not going to love big 2 to 3 rep sets that burn their nervous system out. They're going to obviously tolerate exercise better in the afternoon in some cases, but sometimes in the morning. Their motivation drivers are they're higher levels of introversion and conscientiousness. So they're going to be more internally driven, more data driven, more detail oriented, more autonomous. So you don't need to coach them as much, but you need to provide them detail so that they can just get on with the work themselves. They also then have biomechanics of these long limbs with very small muscle belly that don't do well with heavy weights. They actually do better with a lighter weight and higher rep, but that matches this nervous system dominance. Their nervous system will do better with lighter weight, higher rep. They also don't do well with heavy weights on top of their spine. And so we now get an understanding of, okay, this person needs a very detailed explanation of their exercises. They're going to need lighter weight, higher rep, nothing that overhead, because their spine's going to get hurt if they do that. You can see how exercise can be a medicine for this person. But if you get it wrong, it's the opposite of that. This person is going to need neural calm. They're going to need to rest their nervous system. And the suggested workout is going to be yoga, stretching, Pilates, or higher rep strength training in the afternoon is going to really benefit their body. And if they do this, it matches their biology. This creates a sense of physiological safety for their system. This is now precisely medicinal, I should say, for this body. Whereas we then have the situation of this body over here that is very different. Their physiology is prone to obesity, metabolic syndrome, high physical resilience and strength, sensitive to early metabolic stress because of the blood sugar levels that we discussed before. We also know that the motivation and drivers for this person is very different. They, because of their prolactin levels with a body like this, are more about connection and support. So they're more about the relationship you have with them. This person doesn't care about the relationship you have unless it's detailed. Just give me the detail and we're good. This person's like, I just want to know who you are. I want to know how your family is. I want to support them. They're personally committed to the trainer. They will do it for you and they'll feel guilty if they don't achieve it. They need accountability. This person is autonomous. This person actually needs you to text them every day. This is part of their biology. And if they don't get it, then they won't get the medicine that they need from exercise, because they need to know that you are their family, because that's what prolactin does. If we understand the motivation of this person, we now get to understand, how can I support them medicinally with my motivation? And that happens through you building a stronger relationship with them. Whereas a relationship with this person is annoying. It is not medicinal. It is side effect of you being too needy. Just give me the detail and let me out there. You can be non-medicinal. You can be a side effect just by being a needy trainer or too attentive. The biomechanics of this person, shorter, thicker limbs, type 1 and type 2B muscle fibers, in fact, a limit, an amount of type 1, but mostly type 2B for short, very powerful bouts. Foot injuries are a big thing for them as well. And so sending them on long runs is not medicinal initially. Heavyweight, low rep, long endurance cardio on the bike, on the swimming, things that don't put a lot of weight through their feet until they're well trained. And the result is strength, stability, and exhaustive work, very heavy weights, long cardio in the morning to get lots of circulation through the body, but then heavy weights and high intensity in the afternoon. If they do light weights, lactic acid stuff, they don't find it medicinal. They don't get the benefit. They don't get the results. And now the medicine that you've tried to provide them isn't effective. And you may as well sit at home. you can see how medicinal exercise can be when you understand the system. I cannot stress this enough, how important the right exercise for the right person. That's what makes exercise medicine. It is about precision. And then once we understand the system, we can then understand these wearables. We can then understand HRV and blood oxygen levels and activity levels, body temp, sleep monitoring, food intake. Now, let's just take this for an example. We get a heart rate variability of an individual. They wake up with a very high sympathetic score. They're very stressed when they wake up, essentially, or their sympathetic output is very high. Now, for this individual, this means that their methylation pathways are going to be stressed, because that's what comes along with a body like this, is specific genetic pathways that are going to be more stressed when they're in a high sympathetic zone. And so they need to meditate and plan. That becomes medicinal for them, for their system. If they go out and do really heavy training right now, they actually burn their sympathetic system out and they get tired for the rest of the day because it drains their nervous system. Then we might go to yoga in the afternoon if they're still stressed, instead of doing HIIT training, because yoga is the thing that calms this body down and makes them feel relaxed. Whereas we get the same result for this individual, it means a long walk in the morning and low GI food, because their blood sugar control is going to be terrible in the morning, because that's what happens to a body like this. They've got insulin resistance tendencies, and with high stress, we need to be very careful of their blood sugar levels. And so this becomes a recommendation with this kind of reading, because we understand the system. This person can actually tolerate carbohydrates and they will be served because it will calm them down, as opposed to create a greater propensity for fatty liver like it will for this individual. Afternoon heavy strength training and HIIT training will actually exhaust this person, which swings this back around. They need to exert to relax. And then this person right here is an early bird, and they froth on waking up pretty agitated. They'll actually get more out of doing HIIT training in the morning because they tolerate stress in the morning really well. They're designed for it. And so this cortisol match for high stress and then doing high stress activities, perfect for this body. There's no point having a HRV until you understand the system. But now technology is available where we can understand the system, so that we can now understand the specific wearable that somebody has got. And then you make that even more extreme. You take a blood sugar level with this person, and you understand their sleep metrics, and you understand the food that they've got, and you plug that into the system. And we have now even more precision with what we are doing. This is, I guess, where we need to be, my friends, is understanding that technology is here to support us. Not only does it help us understand the person at a system level, but then we can understand them at a specific real-time level as well, but understand that point in reference to their body, because the precision of that heart rate is only as precise as your understanding of the individual. And you need to have technology to calculate this stuff, because we cannot do it with our brain. We cannot. No one can. And no one can do it at scale in a way that's going to save the world. And what happens with this as well is, if you know that you've got this type of person, and everybody in your network understands that you've got this type of person, then everybody understands that the dietitian's got to be more detail oriented. The doctor needs to focus more of their treatments around the nervous system and the support of that. You're speaking the same language and interpreting the information in a real way, so that you have this consistent intervention methodology, not one doctor saying paleo, which absolutely destroys this person, by the way. Another dietitian saying you need high carb. This person saying, oh, I just did the keto and I'm loving it. We have a consistent intervention methodology because it's about the individual and about what's precisely good for the individual. We have consistent language and communication to the client through that network. We have an understanding of what's right for this system, and then we're able to objectively collect data on this person in a real way, unbiasedly look at that data through that objective collection of wearable data as well. We can then tag that in with a hospital record, so that if they have a blood sugar response that's not right, we can flag it with the doctor straight away. If their cholesterol goes up, there'll be measurement tests that we'll be able to do in a short number of years that will test your cholesterol on the fly, that will test your blood SpO2, which is already happening right now with various watches and devices, to say this person's in trouble. They need to see their health professional straight away. And it gives the client real-time feedback. In a short year, apps right now, the app that we work with will actually be able to monitor whether you've been in a lot of stress, and it will actually give you a meditation and specific music that will actually change your brain to take you out of that stress to give you a better result on life. So we are all aiming to enhance people's lives. Exercise is a stress. It can be an effective medicine, but it needs to be precise. And I hope I've made that clear enough today. In order for it to be precise, though, you need to understand how the system of the body works and how it operates. And tech-based health assessments, this is exactly what's happening right now. You need to understand, with that knowledge of the system, the wearable data, because that is referenced against the system itself. And then we've got to be able to deliver that information and coach that in a way that is actually motivating the individual. Competition will motivate some people, but it will be a deterrent for others. How you interact as a health professional, how you engage people at the gym is going to be different based on how their body is built. You can take advantage of this information. If you don't, you will be lacking precision. You will lose people. Your retention will be poorer because people don't feel at home where you are with your practice, with your gym. Whereas if you can provide an environment that suits their makeup, you start creating a home that is safe. That is what we're here for, is to create a safe home for individuals where they can get the advice that they need, deliver on what they're supposed to do. And in that way, exercise will be a medicine. But before then, we're flipping a coin. And it's just not okay anymore. This is a non-negotiable that we've got to make a stand. We want to put ourselves on the map. We want to be as effective as what we want to be talking about. We need precision. It's as simple as that. Thank you very much.
Cam, I think there's a standing ovation happening right now around Australia after that amazing presentation. As always, delivered in a manner that shows your passion towards the topic, but also passion towards people, I like to say, just doing shit, moving into the next level and moving this. For those that are just tuning in or maybe missed Cam's key point, I think I'm right, Cam. Exercise needs to be precise.
That's the one. Otherwise, it can be the opposite of what we intended it to be. Absolutely.
And I love how you tied everything in right at the end back to the retention of our members, the retention of our clients. We all are striving for results. So this technology and what you talked about today, it for me is groundbreaking, and very few people are using it, but it is going to be a critical factor moving forward to future clients as well as the current clients that we've got right now. So thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with everybody today. I do want to say a huge thank you to Cam for hanging in there today and delivering that presentation. And obviously Kyle earlier for his introduction and telling us about how PH360 can work. We'll put all the details in our slides so that you can get in contact with the guys. They are phenomenal. They are world leaders in this and just terrific. So once again, thanks, Cam. Thanks, Kyle, for being involved with the virtual Fitness and Recreation Technology Summit this year. In 2 weeks, our next webinar is with James Ellender. James is from Active Exchange, and you will not want to miss this webinar as Active Exchange collects more data on gyms and rec centres usage leads than anyone else in the country. And James is going to decipher what he's collected in regards to inquiries, sales, usage, where people are using the clubs, both post-lockdown and even during lockdown. I can assure you the data that James will share will be very exciting for you about opening up. That webinar, Thursday, the 26th of August at 3:30 p.m. To register, go to fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au/Fritz 2021. Again, I would like to thank our partners, our sponsors, and our supporters for helping us deliver this gift of education to the entire fitness industry. If you got any value out of today's presentation from Cam, Please tell your industry colleagues that the 2021 Virtual Fitness and Recreation Industry Technology Summit is on, and it's free education, a free event to help you strengthen your business and your knowledge with technology. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you on Thursday, the 26th of August at 3:30 p.m.